Okay, so I've already rinsed and dried my tomatoes. You'll notice there's the stem on this side. So we're gonna put them this way and cut them horizontally across. Make sure to let your knife do the work. Sometimes the tomato can be a little hard if your knife's not super sharp. Try to slice in the skin and then you can slice across. Notice how I'm not shoving down, I'm going back and forth. So inside of the tomato, there are these seeds. They're fine, but we don't want them in our bruschetta. So we're just gonna gently scoop these seeds into the trash. Gently scoop these into the trash. Kind of get your finger in there and get out most of the seeds. If there's a couple left, it's no biggie. Okay, so you're just going to gently use your finger. Oh, it might squirt a little bit. Make sure to wipe that off afterwards and get those seeds out. If there's a little bit left inside, it doesn't matter. No big deal. Okay. Boop. Right. Then we're going to dice these, and to dice means to cut into small squares. So if you notice, the tops have this little root, as I mentioned before. We don't want that. So what we're going to do is cut into it around that root. See, now we've got these big chunks. And this part can go in, that's fine. We'll just cut down. Notice once again how I'm moving forward and back with my knife. You can't tell when I'm going quickly, but I'm always going forward and back with my knife. Even keep the knife tip on the cutting board and slide across. Once we have a section diced, we're going to put that in our serving bowl or our mixing bowl. And I will dice up the rest. Now we'll just dice these up real quick. Notice the way I'm holding my knife, that I've got a good grip on the handle. Then I'm being really careful with my fingers as I'm slicing. So part of this, what I said about the slicing motion, that's firstly so that you don't damage the tomato, but also to protect your fingers. And like, notice that I'm always keeping my fingers out of the way of the blade. Notice even on my slices, it didn't want to go through the skin all the way. It's okay. Just tear it apart. No big deal. All right, so these bottom parts don't have a root end, so we can just cut up the whole thing. Even easier. So I just like to give this a slice across. Notice on that last one, I saw that it was getting a little dicey, so I just moved my hand out of the way. Don't be a hero. The most important thing is that we don't get hurt. The second most important thing is that it's good. Nothing else is really important. All right, we're almost there, guys. You having fun watching me chop yet? Okay. Ooh. You can use the same technique for any type of tomato. This is a plum tomato. Notice the like kind of rounded oblong shape of it. But if you have one of those big wide beefsteak tomatoes, do the same thing. No big deal, any tomato you got. You can even make this dish with cherry tomatoes or grape tomatoes. You just slice them in half instead. And whoop, 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 in the bowl. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and wipe down my cutting board, mostly so things don't go sliding everywhere. and we're going to attack this onion. So there's two ends to the onion, the root end and the top. I don't know, I guess the other end. So what we're going to do to slice this is we're first going to lay it kind of flat and slice off the top end. Okay, that's going to give us a nice flat surface. And then we're going to cut right through the root. This is how you always start chopping an onion. You cut right through the root. So now we've got all these paper stuff. That's trash. Okay, we're only using half an onion for this. I cut my onion a little bit unevenly. That's okay. I'm going to take the smaller half. We don't need too much onion. You don't want it to taste like an onion bomb in your mouth. So I'm just going to gently peel. If it's really, really fighting you, you can take off that top bit of onion. It's okay. I won't tell. Ooh, see how mine's fighting? Eee. Kind of gotta get under there. Oh. Yeah, see? That helped me loosen it up a bit. Burp, 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 burp. Don't tell on me. A little bit wasteful. Okay, so now that we've got this piece, you'll notice the onion has these layers in it, right? All these rings, and the rings go through this way as well. So we're going to cut through this onion, always keeping the root end intact, so keeping that root end together, and we're going to slice through it kind of around, almost like you're making little, like an orange is segmented, but more than one. So we're going to cut this into a fine dice. Once again, those little square chunks. So notice how I'm kind of moving around the onion, going down the sides. Yeah. And then check it out, because some magic's about to happen. Okay. So once I've sliced it like that, now I'm going to put it this way. Hold the root end in my hand, right? Make sure that it's all nice and stable. And then just slice across, and boom, magic. I have little diced onion pieces. Get that little piece of skin out of the way. Okay. Super duper easy. You can see on the root end how it's left, kind of like each little bit. Trash. All right, so now I'm going to put the onion in with the tomato. Last bits of onion in the bowl, last bits of skin in the trash, and wipe this puppy down. All right. Okay, so next we're gonna go for the garlic. So garlic comes naturally wrapped in this little paper. Okay, there's a little bit. We want to gently place the side of your knife against garlic, put your hand on it, and push to crush. And that's going to get that paper off and jumpstart the mincing process for us. So minced is like kind of like diced, but really, really fine. So I'm just going to take this bad boy. It's already started to break up, and just cut it as small as I can. Woo. Being really careful to protect my fingers. See that little root end? We don't want that. Put that to the side. And then you can just kind of go through it. If it's not as small as you want the first try, go through it again. If you got a little bit of bigger chunks there, it's not a huge deal. It's just the garlic flavor is pretty strong, so you don't necessarily want to bite down on a giant chunk of garlic in your mouth. But see how I got that nice and small? I'm just going to go through it once more because I see one or two big chunkies. Okay. And pop that in with the tomatoes and onions. Nice. Okay. Now on to the basil. So the basil we are going to chiffonade, which is French for little ribbons. You're going to have a bit bigger basil, but this is from my garden. And a critter ate some of it. So this is what I've got. As I said, it's okay. It doesn't matter. So we're going to take the basil leaves, stack them together. I've got 3 leaves here. Then you're going to roll them up tight. Okay? So it's going to create like this little roll. And then we're going to go across. And this is where it's really important to go sideways, not down. because if you go down, you're going to bruise the basil. But I'm just gently moving my knife across that roll. And then see, it's going to give me these beautiful little ribbons. Whee! It's like basil confetti. Pop that in there. All right, next, we've got our fresh mozzarella. Just gonna take these guys, they're delicious. They come packaged in water, usually. I think we've pre-packaged yours for you, so I don't know if it'll have water in it. But these are super simple. I've got these little ones, I could leave them whole, but I like a little bit of mozz in every bite. So you can cut them in half or even in quarters, just so you get little bite-sized bits. Since I cut my tomatoes kind of small, I'm gonna go for quarters. And just pop them in as I go. Boom. Boom. Always being careful to keep my fingers out of the way of the knife. You'll also notice I'm touching all of this food, so it's very important that I washed my hands thoroughly before I started. I'm going to remind you guys of that when we're in our video chat, but hopefully you've washed your hands before you start. Okay. And our chopping part for now is done. So what we're going to do next is just take a little bit of salt, pepper, and season up these tomatoes, this tomato mixture. So I'm going to take the salt, put it right in my hand. And you want a healthy pinch, okay? So don't be shy. I put it in my palm first so that I can really control how much is going in there. There's nothing worse than when you just chuck the salt in and then there's way too much. It's a problem. So salt, I like black pepper, so I'm going to do a good amount. And that's the first step of our seasoning. Next, we're going to take this vinegar. You guys have red wine vinegar. I don't have any. I'm using apple cider vinegar. It's fine. And I'm just going to measure it right in the cap. Half a teaspoon to a teaspoonful. And a quarter cup of olive oil. Just kind of drizzle this around. Whew. And what's going to happen, that's a little light. Whew. What's going to happen is we're going to stir this up. And then after we stir it, that salt is going to get in those tomatoes, and you can kind of see it starting to happen already. There's juice at the bottom. The salt's going to get in those tomatoes and really start to bring the juice out. It's going to be delicious. So that's why it says in your directions, we want to let it sit for at least 5 minutes. I'm going to give this a taste real quick and make sure that the seasoning's good. It needs a little more salt. You're going to think you're putting too much salt in, but tomatoes really need it. Don't be shy. It's all right. Now, at this point, you could add in some other herbs if you had them. A little parsley or cilantro, even thyme. You could add some Parmesan cheese. You could really go wild with it. Okay, so this is going to sit for a few minutes. Put this off to the side. So now we're going to cut the bread. You'll notice I've got just the tail end of my little piece of Market Basket French bread here. And you'll also notice my bread's really stale. Yours isn't, hopefully, but it's actually okay. It's not a big deal. So this is a good way to save bread that's a little past its peak so you don't have to throw it out. So we are going to cut this bread on the bias. And what that means is we're going to take it diagonal. So see how this has been cut flat? We're going to cut it just a little bit diagonal. And the reason why we're doing that, it's a little dry there. The reason why we're doing that is so that we have more surface area to put our delicious tomatoes on. So see how that's smaller than that? We want this nice big surface area. And then you want about 6 good slices, about this size. I might not get quite that. I have another loaf of different bread that I might have to use to finish up. I've got 4 pieces for now. That's okay. That'll do us. I might even toast these up too, because it's not going to hurt anybody. So now I'm just going to take these right to the toaster. Toast them lightly. Pop the bread in the toaster. And I'm going to set mine to light. Okay, my bruschetta, my beautiful little toasts are ready. And notice how that dry, nasty bread is now ready to soak up all this delicious tomato and cheese goodness. So we're just going to take our spoon Got a tablespoon here. Pop the tomatoes on. Yeah. Ooh, it's falling everywhere. That's okay. I'm doing this on my cutting board. You should probably do it on the plate you're going to serve it on. This topping would be really good. Also, you could use it as an uncooked sauce for pasta. You could use it as a topping for grilled or baked chicken. It'd be absolutely delicious in either of those situations. So I'm just really like going crazy with it here. As you can see, my tomatoes are falling everywhere. This guy's definitely not gonna stay on. But that's okay. So if you look at the end, we're gonna have all this beautiful juice. And take that juice and just spoon it right onto the bread. So we got that nice toasty bread. It's ready to drink up some of that juice. You're gonna say to me, Miss, soggy bread? Yes, soggy bread. It's gonna be really good. Boop, boop, boop. And then all it needs now is to go in your face. So enjoy, make it your own, and I can't wait to see what you made. It's really good.